I find it more fulfilling to get in with someone early and help be a part of that, cultivating that sound and watching it grow watching it grow because that's where you really get to talk your shit. Because you can get on a Rihanna song and you're lit. It's Rihanna. Like the work is done. But get an artist from the ground up that no one knows about or even cares to listen to, and put the time in, the work in, and make something that's actually gonna last, and then watch that grow and it be something. All of our favorite producers did that.
You're watching Loud Music Only. I'm your host, A.T Bianco, and today I'm elated to speak with a special producer from Chicago. He has a Grammy award-winning production catalog that consists of some of my favorite songs ever, and maybe yours too. He released his latest album earlier this year titled Don't Grow Up Too Soon, and I can't get enough of it. He's the one and only Nascent. Nascent, how are you, my man? Thanks for joining the show.
I felt with the introduction. Thank you, bro.
What have you been up to? What's been going on?
I've been good. I've been cooling. I took a little break, did a little traveling. Also been outside of that, I've been working with Maxo Kream. He has a new album coming out later this year, so I'm executive producing that. And also, I've been starting this new like radio show series where I'm doing like mashups, like with like beats that I just have on my hard drive and putting them and then just putting acapellas that songs that I like over it. Just to try some different. It's like almost giving me a new approach to making music too. That's how I started making music. Or when I would try to see how my beats would sound with people over them, and I couldn't get people to rap over them, I would be able to just use that as like a reference, And then also like it's kind of cool to put like certain people on certain type of beats that they wouldn't get on, just to see if it makes sense. And yeah, it's been cool. It's kind of just been going back to how I started, and it also gives me a new approach to making beats. It's like just taking a different way to get to the same like destination. Yeah.
Do you have a particular mashup that you've made recently that you can't stop listening to?
There was one I did. I just dropped it. It was Soldier. Oh no, it was Chief Keef. Every day over this beat I did with my boy Ben Lusher. It was actually for Sailor Goon. This beat. It was just like a very pretty piano beat over like these trap drums, but over Chief Keef. Just like the juxtaposition of it. That was
That's
one
the
of my
fun of
favorites
probably
too.
doing it here in
Yeah.
on the production, like such a lush production,
Mhm.
it kind of just shows you how versatile music in general is. Like anybody can kind of do anything.
Hell
Um,
yeah, and no, that's for real, bro. Honestly, and it's sometimes like when I do my collaborations for my albums, I try to push for those contrasts, those that juxtaposition. It's all about textures.
mhm. And that's one thing I do notice about your music is you create this world around your music, and you're very good at curation, and that's what I really want to get into a little
Mm.
later on. But I do like to start out getting to know the lore of an artist or producer, and just kind of your background and your story, how you started making music, and
Yeah.
maybe growing up, and what about music comforts you.
Well, what covers me for music, I think it's everything. It's like it is a form of expression, but it's also a form of therapy, and it's a form. It's just like it's what I live for. So it's like it's just as important as um the food you eat. It's like it's everything. So and that's just like the cool thing about knowing what you want to do when you have a passion. Because there's some people that knew they wanted to be a pilot, knew they wanted to play football, knew they wanted to play basketball, knew they wanted to do this, and they worked their whole life towards that goal. So knowing that you'll do it for free if you had to, you know what I mean? That's one I think the advantage I had as when I started out so young at like 14 was knowing that I wanted to do this. But I started out grinding, man. I started out like everybody else, and then kind of, and then I and ended up getting a big opportunity at my first placement ever, working with 50 Cent, and then from there I moved backwards. And I started working with everybody in Chicago after that because it kind of gave me more confidence. Well, it definitely gave me more confidence, but it also kind of gave me a little bit of like a buzz, in the city, being back home and being that young, working with 50. So, but
Yeah,
I've evolved a lot throughout the years.
I could imagine that working with 50 Cent as a youngin. Will give you a little bit of buzz in your city.
Especially in 2008, like when he's still, you know what I'm saying, like musically. I mean, 50's a legend, but 2008 he's still relevant, and it's like right after the Kanye like fake little beef they had, right? The
Yeah,
year
yeah,
after that.
to boost the album
So,
sales there.
yeah, so it's definitely like, and I'm super grateful for that. And but that's when I was making that type of music, at that time. So like my main goal was like I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to really, at least for my goals, I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to do it in Chicago like that. I knew Chicago had a ceiling, but this is before like the big rush we had. Like this is like right before like everything. I mean, literally King Louis, Chief Keef, Chance, Saba, Rocky Fresh, everybody that came out during that time. Vic Mensa. This is way before that. So I felt like I had to go to New York to do it because that's just what at that time where music was, I guess was happening.
During that process, when you were like, I'm sure you made some trips to New York, right?
A lot of them.
When you were in studios with maybe some people that were a little more well known than you, how did you maneuver that space as a new up and coming producer? Maybe feeling like, oh, like how am I here? How did I get here? Talk about the mindset that you kind of had to build, being in those big rooms.
Um, I think in the beginning it was more like for me I never had like the imposter syndrome. I think at first I was definitely not expecting to out the gate for someone like 50 to like what I was making, because I hadn't really had any experience working with artists. But I was aiming for, here, and I didn't know, but once that was confirmed for me, then I knew that I needed to be where I needed to be. But there were times where I was a little bit like I would say I was frustrated because I'm like, why are things moving so slow? Why aren't things moving faster? Because that was just because of my inexperience, and now understanding that, there's people that do these things for 15 years and don't get, and don't make it until that mark. So it's you got to pay your dues, you got to pay the game, and the game will pay you back. You know what I'm saying?
I love
But
that.
that's just that young stuff.
Yeah, no, of course. Now, growing up when you were starting to make music, what were some artists that influenced you making music? Did you hear a particular artist or producer and you were like, "Oh man, I need to start making music"?
It was Dr. Dre. It was definitely the current 2001. It was the Marshall Mathers LP, and it was Nas Stillmatic. And also, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, Blueprint to Jay-Z. Those were like very um important pieces of music in my life growing up. And then college dropout. Like, but that by then, '04, I already knew, like, that I was gonna make music. I already knew '05, I already knew that. But there was, but we're talking about the introduction, right? Like we're talking about, yeah, it was definitely Dr. Dre and Nas that like made me like, I was like, yeah, I want to do this.
I love that. Now, you grew up in Chicago?
Yeah, I grew up in Chicago my whole life. Moved to LA 2014, so I've been here 10 years now, and I've been very grateful to be here. Just elevating my game and being around other people that are better than me that allowed me to get better.
That's an important thing.
Mhm.
I notice in my life being in rooms that you're not the expert or
Mhm.
you don't know much. I think those are the moments where we learn the most about ourselves.
One
Um,
thousand percent, bro. Trust me, it's crazy.
it's a scary thing, but I'm happy to hear that you do that and you kind of chase that because that's what
Yeah.
keeps us on our toes. It's what keeps us better, you know.
It's and it's like and yeah and it's like all my favorites, man. The people that I look up to, they always evolved. Kanye evolved, Timbaland evolved, Dre evolved. Even like someone like Quincy Jones, who like I mean, he made Thriller at what 50, 50 something. Like it's not about age, it's about taste, and it's about the willingness to learn and to evolve. Like like you can't have that like old guy mentality where like you like that Uncle Rico mentality where you talking about the old days and yeah, back in the day I used to make, man, fuck back in the day.
When the Chicago Renaissance of rap started,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure it's been going on for years, even 90s, early 2000s. But there was a specific point in Chicago where things started to change. It became this more of a music mecca for rap and a new
Yeah.
wave of rap. And you got to see it all happen, even
Yeah,
before
bro.
it did. So if you can just kind of describe what the scene was like for you as a producer when, guys like Vic Mensa and Chance the Rapper and Saba and this community of independent artists were coming up. And even like G Herbo, you produced one of my favorite songs with G Herbo that we'll get
We're
to later on
gonna get to that story in a bit.
in the interview. But just describe what that was like to see it all come, and now looking back on it, what
It
it's
was
like to witness all of that.
it was history, man. You don't know it's history when you're making history. You don't know it. But it was really I was around like when I started doing my stuff in Chicago, 2009, 2010. It was very street. Like a lot of the music was very like like it was like gangster rap. So there was this group called LEP Bogus Boys, and they were like they were doing everything like the right way, and they were getting they were doing everything the right way, getting the right producers, the right features, and it just Chicago was just stuck. It wasn't like you said, is when the big like that gold rush happened in 2012. Um, but seeing it come, really was like King Louis was the first one that got things exciting, and then Chief Keef came out, and then it was like Chief Keef and Fredo and Lil Reese and everybody, Lil Durk, and then drill. When drill happened, you saw people that were making like conscious rap start making drill because they were trying to hop on the wave, and it
Mm.
didn't really work. You know what I'm saying? Because it did. But then once that kind of was doing his thing, here comes Chance. But Chance already was doing his thing when he did 10 Day. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
then and then here comes Chance, and here comes Vic, and here comes Mick, and Saba, and No Name, and Rocky Fresh. Rocky Fresh, I remember he was signed to MMG, like, and it was like a big deal in the city because like we didn't see those type of things happen to our artists. We only had Kanye and like Common and Twista to reference. You know what I mean? But those were artists that came up under a different older model. Like this is the blog era rap now. Like you know what I mean? Like this is what I mean. If you think about that era, it was Schoolboy, it was TDE, Wiz, Currency, like Freddie Gibbs, maybe even Maxo. All these people that came out during this blog era, it was like 2012, 2016. A lot of ASAP, the whole ASAP mob, all that stuff. Mac Miller, like you could really go down a list of how much special music was being made in that period, or that came out at that time.
And I'm so fascinated to hear that coming right from a source, because that's the era that I fell in love with music. The
Yeah,
808s and Heartbreak into the 2010s, where I was a big like T-Pain guy, but then also you're observing
yeah.
sounds from Wiz and Currency, like you said, and you mentioned Mick Jenkins. Um, you know, the Waters, that was a big project for me that it made me look at music a little differently. It made me look at rap a little bit differently. And it's interesting to
Mm,
hear that all of that coming from you, because those guys like Chance, for first and foremost, changed the image of
mm.
what an artist could be. You got Odd Future too, not from
Yeah.
Chicago, but the
LA,
realm
right?
of you don't have to be something that you're not.
It gave other people more like faith that you could actually make it out of the city and you can actually do something. You don't have to leave the city to make it, to make it happen. And all those artists were responsible for that. And really, Andrew Barber, his site Fake Shore Drive, he broke a lot of these artists like Keith and Louie and Chance and all these dudes. He had the platform.
And it's interesting talking to other artists
Mm.
from the community. Last year, I had the privilege of speaking to FemDot, and he told me about how he was going to open mics with like Saba and No
Yeah,
Name, and seeing that all come to life, and being in Classic Studios with Smino. And
Classic Studios is a I was gonna say too. That was another. It's a landmark, bro. When it's all said and done, all the people that went to that studio to record their projects, like we were there. Like I was in another room when Chance was doing Acid Rain, and and that something's happening. Like you're hearing the music's coming out, and you're like, oh, this shit's gonna be crazy. And meanwhile, Vic's working on in that tape, like 10 minutes away with my boy Cam at another studio. It was crazy, bro. It was
And you're just
crazy.
seeing the magic happen. You're listening, you're
Yeah,
feeling
and you
it
know,
first and
and it
foremost.
feels different, bro. When it's special, you can feel it. There's no denying that you feel it. You can't explain what it is. You just know it's going to be something, special.
And the word feeling comes to mind when I listen to your music, because when I listen to some of my favorite music or when music speaks to me, I go based off of feeling. Sometimes I get the chills, the hair stands up on my arm, and that's a great feeling. So we'll get into talking about your latest album, Don't Grow Up Too Soon. It has an absolute all-star lineup of artists that includes Ab Soul, Saba, Bashfortheworld, Maxo
Mm,
Kream, BJ the Chicago Kid, Paul Wall, Sailor, which is one of my favorites that I discovered because of your tape.
dope,
Orion
dope.
Sun, Jordan
Yeah.
Ward, Mariba, and many, many more. There's so many great artists that you culminated on this project. Talk about the curation of this album and how long it maybe took you to curate all these collaborations.
I'll tell you this. It took me 2 years to make everything happen, right? I had the idea already before that because I already had my first two albums already like name, title, everything, right? And the third one came about like recently, like about a year ago. But I have this trilogy. But I knew that the second one I couldn't make until I actually, I didn't know what the theme was going to be. I knew that it was going to be called "Don't Grow Up Too Soon," but I didn't know what was going to be the message. Was it going to be? I didn't know. I just knew that's what it was called. And then until I went to these real life things, of like healing some childhood stuff and having these conversations with my parents and my loved ones, that it was shown to me. Okay, this is what this is going to be. The album, the concept is healing your inner child. Cool. I didn't want to make it so preachy. I made sure to keep it, music has to be fun. So we don't want to be, if it's too preachy, it's not enjoyable, at least for me. I had to make sure that I was going to be able to get my concept off, whether it be the artwork, rollout, or at least one song. And that's why we got Absol to do Take Your Time, because that's like, he's the guy that's gonna go there and talk that shit. So I knew I had to get him. And I knew Ab for a long time, and this is the first time that we worked together. You know what I mean? And it was supposed to be that way. And I'm forever grateful for that because he delivered, which I knew he was gonna do. But getting everybody to do this is very difficult because you're chasing people's schedules. Are they in the mood to do it? Do they have the time to do it? Are they working on their album? Are they on tour? Personal reasons, whatever. And then once you do that, it's like putting a puzzle together and just trying to figure out what's gonna go where, what makes sense, because it has to be cohesive. Um, that probably takes the longest because a lot of times you don't know where you're going. You're just going. And you're just like, fuck it. You're just kind of like, man, I'm just gonna hope for the best and see what happens. But then it's like, I ain't gonna lie, man. You hit a stride. You hit like a moment of like where it just all just like I made Big Brown Eyes, You're a Star, um, what's that? Running Back My Bread, like all in 2 weeks. I think it was those songs. And then like He Got the Gas, Time, Before I Leave. That was in 2 days. So a lot of things just started to happen. And then that's when you're like, okay, this is what it is. This is now I know what I'm looking at. And but feeling is super important for me, like you said earlier. And I think I'm big on nostalgia, but it's important not to make it sound dated, to make it sound fresh, but still give you that nostalgic feeling.
Right. And there's a bit of you're kind of I know you're a producer, but you're also a bit of a casting director too. You're casting these parts in what feels like when I listen, the way the album starts, I felt like I was watching the opening scene to a movie, when I pressed play.
Oh
Um,
man, that's dope. Yeah.
honest to God. And when I listen to the parts, the features, um they all kind of have different themes, and like you said, it was really cool to hear Ab Soul spit game on that song, because you're right, he is the person to do that, to get it started off fresh. And the idea of don't grow up too soon, Ab Soul singing take your time, I relate to that because I think growing up in your 20s, 30s, teenage years, right? We're all in this rush. For some reason, society, social media, whatever it is,
Yeah.
pushes puts this unneeded pressure on us to be in a rush for everything. But like the real, I guess, art of life is figuring out how to be patient and learning how to be patient.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most important themes that I took from this project. And I heard you kind of refer to some healing that you had to go through to learn about yourself when creating this album. Are there any other like specific themes from this album? And if you'd like to share, what it really helped you get through and overcome, because I think overcoming those maybe childhood traumas or healing,
Yeah.
music comforts that.
It definitely does. It's not easy. It's because it's easy to talk, about wanting to heal and talking about going to therapy and learning all the terminologies that sound really like emotionally intelligent. But then there's like the other side is where you have to actually exercise it. And it's just hard as fuck, man. It's uncomfortable. Um, especially having to talk to like, let's say your parents about certain things. And luckily for me, it was a moment of a full circle moment because it was accountability and it was also just like, a more understanding. And then for me, it gave me better understanding too, like a little bit more. I don't know if it was compassion or just empathy or understanding of my parents, knowing that I have very young parents, so like at that age, I would have, I wouldn't have the tools. I know I would have fucked up. So you get to understand them a little better, but at least the intention should be there at some point in your life to try to go in there, and that's why I have the monster in the front because the monster is like the shadow, and it's like the thing that you're like running from, and that's why it doesn't have a name because it's all of us. And it's like being more comfortable and nicer to the shadow because the shadow is a part of you.
Now
You
you're
know what I mean?
speaking about the monster on the cover. I
Yeah,
love the cover. It's one of my favorite covers of an album I've seen to date. I'm big on album covers. I just think that
me
it
too,
just
bro. Yeah.
captures the magic. And I'm curious who drafted that up. I'm sure it came a lot from your brain, but who
Yeah.
brought all that to life?
Her name is Alina Alou. She lives in Paris. She's that's an actual oil painting, but the picture is an inspiration from the album cover is inspiration from this picture of Muhammad Ali knocking out Cleveland Brown, and it was an aerial view of the boxing canvas, right, the boxing ring, and the guy laid out Cleveland Brown who got knocked out by Muhammad Ali. It was the monster, and then Muhammad Ali is a kid, right? So it's like instead of a boxing ring, it's a sandbox, right? And it's like this kid. He's like I don't know if he's play fighting with the monster, he's whatever, but he's acknowledging him. They're together now, and that was the inspiration behind it. It was like a very iconic picture. And I wanted to. I didn't like it. It didn't come to me like I liked the picture, and as I was thinking about what my cover was going to be, I just kept seeing like an aerial shot. And then I was like, oh, it's right in front of me. It's the Muhammad Ali picture. So I told Lena, yo, let's do this. She designed the monster. I just gave her a description and she designed it and she made it.
Now, when the project starts, you also had a crazy feature from Jesus Christ himself
The
on
Black
the intro.
Jesus. Yeah, Black Jesus.
We got to talk about how you brought Black Jesus to life
yeah.
and how you made that happen and who recorded that part. Did you guys write some of these skits? Let's talk about
Nah,
how that
we just
happened.
it was everything was fresh out the door. I just like I reached out to him just as a fan and also having mutual friends and like from Black Jesus to the stuff he did on YouTube to him being the voice of Lamar in GTA 5, the game that I play, every day. And we got connected to a mutual friend, and I told him the concept and what I wanted to do. And when he came in, I didn't put two and two together in my brain that he should be the voice of the monster, right? Which he is in the album. So he's the monster. But in the beginning, he says, "Yo, what's your boy? Jesus." But like, essentially, he is the monster, right? He's the voice. And nah, bro, it was just really just him going in the studio and be like, "Cool, this is what this is. All right, let me go in there and let's just try some things and just shoot from the hip, and picking the best parts." But that he's a professional. I'm saying that's what he does.
Right. So a lot of it was improv.
A lot of it, all of it. The intro, the outro, and then I have some more stuff coming out with the rollout. that he's involved in, dropping a cereal box and other and actual merch. But we did this animation where he's the monster and I'm myself, and it's really cool.
I felt like I
Yeah,
was listening to almost this comedy album, like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
also music, because I was laughing. I was genuinely laughing.
yeah,
That first skit just had me
yeah,
dying. I thought it was so creative.
yeah,
So it's fascinating to hear that you got him, and I didn't even put two and two together. He was the voice of Lamar on GTA.
yeah.
That's
That's kind
pretty
of considered
legendary.
my childhood too. The game that I played. And
Right, right.
him having be a part of it, having Paul Wall on my album is something that my 15-year-old self would think is like would want. And that was the reason behind a lot of these features and people involved.
So when you were making the Paul Wall Maxo Kream collab here, that's a pretty legendary mix of artists that you culminated on that song. Um, Talk about maybe the creation of that, and like what was that feeling when you got all of them together and you
Yeah.
heard that final mix and master?
That beat I started with Beat Butcher, my homie, and like amazing producer that I work with a lot. Um, we're at the studio. It's like during the pandemic. We make this beat and whatever. We save it. As I'm working on the album, I kept going back to that beat, but I changed it up a bit. Like I changed the key. Sometimes I'll do that with old stuff. I'll try to just like change the tempo, change the key, to see what other feeling comes out. And when I dial it into what it is now, I was like, okay, cool. This is actually something crazy now. And then I don't know why. I was like, yo, I want to. I mean, I know why. I'm a fan of Paul Wall, and I wanted to work with him. So I put the Drive Slow acapella on top of it and see how it would sound. Like, how would this sound over this beat? And I said, oh, this shit's dope. So then I made it my mission to get to Paul Wall, which was easy because we had again another mutual. But what really sold everything was BJ, because once BJ hopped on and did the hook, it made their life easier, right? Because they just got to fill in the verse
Right.
and then have the concept. So now it's very cool with a concept. There's a hook. I don't have to really think about it too much. Just got to write a verse. But I went to Houston both times to get my verse. I went to Houston to get my Paul Wall verse, and then went back to do a Maxo. And when we put it together, man, it was just crazy because it's like it's Paul Wall, and Maxo and BJ. And
And
then
you
we
got
shot
to
the
work with both
video.
of them.
Yeah,
You got to work with both of them in H Town, and
yeah.
the reason why I love this song is because it's got. I just never thought I'd hear BJ the Chicago Kid singing a hook with a song with Maxo Kream and Paul Wall. It just, a hook from BJ the Chicago Kid just sounds like this, like a warm hug.
Hmm.
Every time you hear him
Yeah.
sing, I got to see him live at the Blue Note Jazz Fest
Oh, you went?
last
You went in
summer.
New York?
What's up?
You went this year or last year?
I went last year when they
Oh,
had No Worries
oh
performing
yeah, I went
Terrace
this
Martin,
year. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it was just amazing. It was amazing to see, and just seeing all those legends on stage. But to hear his voice live was very unique because I've been listening to BJ the Chicago Kid has been blessing songs for
Mm,
years,
yeah.
and it's just very unique to hear him on a record like that. So it's fascinating to hear how it all came to life, man.
Yeah, nah, I like doing shit like that, doing things that like the things that not like yeah people wouldn't normally do.
Right. Now,
Mm-hmm.
another one of my favorites is "You Should Have Been There" with Saba.
Mm-hmm.
He's a frequent collaborator of yours. Let's
Yeah.
talk about what it's like working with him and seeing him bring a song like that to life. Um, because I'm sure part of the joy in doing what you do is seeing artists' creative process as you're involved in your creative process and how both complement each other. So, what's it like working with him?
Oh, it's the best. Easy. I've worked with him since 2012, I think. So we've been rocking with each other for 12 years already. And he's actually about to re-release Comfort Zone on streaming. I think it's a 10-year anniversary. He dropped 2014.
Really?
Drop it. He's going to drop it on streaming. And it's super easy with him. He had called me like the day before. Hey, I got a studio tomorrow. I want to pull up. I'm like, yeah. So I pulled up. And that was a really really cool session, real special because we made You Should Have Been There, and we made another song like an hour, like from scratch, like in an hour and maybe an hour and 20 minutes. But what was cool about it was that my homie Sam Barsh, who's another producer that I worked with on Hurricane with Kanye and DJ Khalil, he had called me out of nowhere, like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm at the studio." He's like, "Oh, he's like, my session got canceled. Can I pull up?" I'm like, "Yeah, fuck it, like pull up." But he's not someone that I work with all the time. Like we don't. It's not like that's why it was like the timing of it, And he pulls up and he's just like, "Yo, where's the piano at?" I said, "Oh, it's in the room." All right, cool. He goes in and he plays doom, 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 doom. And I'm like, hold on, let's make a sample first. I'm like, let's because I like to make samples first and then treat with a sample, like a sample, and then chop it and like make a beat. So then he got on the piano, my homie Rex got on the bass, and then we just started jamming out. I started doing drums. And then took that piece of music, chopped it, pitched whatever, made a beat out of it, and then you know, that's what came out of it. Um, and it was cool because like Saba was really like talking his shit, and I told him I like that version of you because you're really like that good, so you could back it up all day. So like you know what I'm saying. So it was cool to get that because we've had a lot of songs with they're more introspective or more a little more laid back, and this is more like on a different feel.
Right. And you can always expect some introspective knowledge to come from Saba,
Every time
regardless.
he's one of the best, bro. He's one of
And
the
he's
best.
one of those artists that make you think about the psyche of him and the people he grew up with. He like paints a picture with his words very well. And it
Mhm.
makes you feel something a bit different. And
Yeah.
it's also interesting to hear how, a fellow producer can show up to the studio
Mhm.
and maybe you had, like you said, you don't work with him regularly, but you know him and you've worked with him before. It's interesting to see how a new set of energy could mix things up and change things creatively when bringing a song to life, like you were
And this is
describing.
like this is
Got to
like
be fun.
serendipitous. The serendipity is a God. It was a wood. Who knows what it is, man? But it's like those things they happen for a reason. And then I had the song, and I was like, "Yo, I really want to use this. Are you gonna use it?" And he's like, "Nah, you want it?" I'm like, "Yeah." So bet. So I just, you know what I mean? I'm like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna use it," and it worked perfect.
Yeah, when life gives you lemons, you got to make that shit.
And bro, we're not wasting anything over here, bro. I swear. Like, if I have a song with someone and it's fire and they don't, it doesn't fit for what they got going on, I'll figure it out. I'll put it somewhere for
I love
sure.
that. I
Yeah.
love that. Now, part of your creative process that I'm sure you enjoy is putting listeners onto up and coming artists that are featured on your projects. And one of those artists is Bashfortheworld on
Mm.
Plata o Plomo.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest record on the album.
That's just
Um,
hard as fuck. Yeah.
and oh, that I turned that on, I listened, and I had posted a video of it. I saw you commented. I posted a video, but like when I first listened to a song and it makes you want to dance. It just makes you want to dance like an idiot. And I that's what I go by. If it makes me dance like an idiot, it's like
You know,
it's a
there's
hard
some shit
song.
right here. Yeah. Yeah.
So I just loved his flow on it. It was fun. I had sent it to my brother. I was like, dude, you gotta check this out. And he's like, oh no way. Like I remember seeing Nascent's name when I was listening to G Herbo
Yeah.
almost 10 years ago. He's like,
Oh,
you're
yeah. Oh,
talking to
yeah.
him. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So talk about collabing with him and creating that interesting melody on the beat first and foremost. Um, I love
Yeah.
that beat.
Yeah. That was an acapella I had of his. So
Mhm.
that was a reverse engineering type of thing. Like it was the song was already done. But I just put a beat on top of it. So kind of like a mashup. But
Right.
I knew once I put that, it fit so well. It was like again undeniable. Like, it just is what it is. But Bash, I really found Bash through one of my Discover Weekly on Spotify. It was like 2020, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And I just like kept going through. I heard one song and I heard another one, and I went. And then what you do, you go back and you go through everything. You're like, "Yo, this shit's crazy." And I reached out to him on Instagram, and funny enough, I didn't even know he was Mexican, because he has a very mysterious thing about him. Like, especially early on, like there was no real pictures of him. You don't even know I didn't even know what he looked like.
Right.
And he follows me back, and he's like, "Yo," he's he's like, "Man, amigo," he's like, "I saw you were at the Grammys and you had that chain on." He's like, "You beat me to it." He's like, "That's why I followed you." He's like, "He didn't even hear my music or nothing." He just said, "Yo, I saw you had a chain that I wanted to wear at the Grammys and you beat me to it." And I was like. And then, but from then on, we just built like a more of a friendship, and music being almost like the last thing, like more so just being like there as a friend to help on the business side if he has any questions, linking him when he needs, and he's doing very well for himself, and he's very smart, and he's killing it, and he's a lot of these artists I don't find in this crazy way. They just like Jordan Ward I found because I was watching Insecure, like it wasn't, and I just reached out to him. Orion Sun, my friend put me onto them. Sailor, I found through a playlist that on SoundCloud. That just so it's just sometimes I'll be fine. I'll just be on the internet, or sometimes people find me, and I hear it, and then if and I'll know if it's something that I could work on or not.
Now you mentioned Sailor. I was
Mhm.
talking to an artist named Wakai, who I'm a huge fan of,
Mhm.
and he told I like to ask some artists, put me onto some music. What have you been listening to lately? He was like, dude, you have to listen to Mangosteen
Mhm.
by Sailor. He was
Mhm.
like, it's not even fair how good she is. It's like, all right, I'll listen. So I listen. I'm like out in my backyard. I'm in nature and I'm listening to this song.
Mhm.
Oh my God. It's not that her voice just sounds like love, man. Like it's a beautiful tone. Even on Run Me Back My Bread, it's kind of a little bit of a let me talk my shit song. There's a
Yeah.
skit at the end
Mhm.
talking about
And that was all her, man. That was her concept, her idea. Like that was what she came up with, and we ran with it. It was dope. And Childish pulled up, and again, everything was very organic. It wasn't anything like nothing was like oh, we're gonna make this play, we're gonna do this. It's like let's just things let life show us, what it is.
mhm. And what really impresses me about your production style is the variety in it. You go from like a hard rap instrumental to stripped down lush production between songs. And you mentioned working with Orion Sun.
Mm.
Your collabs with her are beautiful. Um, Talk about what it's like working with more of like a vocalist. Um, as far as like producing and how you maneuver that space.
Um, man, I wish I had this like a blueprint. There, bro, I'm just like I really feel like spoiled because I'll be working with these artists that are very, very self-sufficient. Like Orion writes everything. She doesn't need you to write her lyrics. She can sing, she can do her stacks, her background. She's incredible. So I'm just there to provide the space that she feels comfortable and give her a piece of music that she likes. That's it. And I let her, you know what I'm saying, and let her run point. Um, but me and her have I mean I've known her since 2018, and we did our first session in New York. But when she came out to LA, we started working more, worked on our EP, her project, and there's just something there. There's something there that we bring out of each other, and I hope to do that with everyone I work with, bring the best out of them. But if you want to do that, then you got to make them feel comfortable, for sure, every time. Because that's what the artist remembers. They don't remember. I mean, they remember if you're talented, but if you're weird or difficult to work with, they'll remember that too, and they probably won't go back. And
And
yeah,
I love how you mentioned that. I feel like sometimes that's a very obvious thing. Like you should make anyone you work with feel comfortable, but I think it's
right.
forgotten about. Like the emphasis on that is forgotten about sometimes. And it's the little interactions that are the most important, separate from the music to make them comfortable.
Yeah, and a lot of these people, producers, man, they want to be the artist and they want to do this and they want to do that, and it's about them, and they forget that what we work for. I mean, we work for the artist, just how the artist works, with us. But like, I don't know. I don't really find it exciting to work with things that are already on and popping. Like, I'll be grateful for it. Like hell yeah, I'm gonna be grateful. I just did a song with Don Toliver. I love it. It's amazing. And he's doing his thing, but I don't know Don Toliver. I haven't worked with him in the studio, you know. But we made some dope shit. But I find it more fulfilling to get in with someone early and help be a part of that, cultivating that sound and watching it grow, because that's where you really get to talk your shit. Because you can get on a Rihanna song and you're lit. It's Rihanna. Like the work is done. But get an artist from the ground up that no one knows about or even cares to listen to, and put the time in, the work in, and make something that's actually gonna last, and then watch that grow and it be something. All of our favorite producers did that.
I also
It's
think that's a
cool.
testament to what you're particularly in music for. You
Yeah, I
know,
love it.
you do truly love it, and just by
Bro, I'll do
using
this shit for free, but I'm not gonna do it for free, but I would.
it, if you're good at something, never do it for
Yeah,
free there.
for free, bro. Yeah, but I love it. Shit, you know what I mean?
But I just love hearing that because that's the probably the one thing that keeps making music feel fresh. You
Mhm.
get to not only be a producer that complements the artist, but you're also, with them through the business side as far as like learning about them, like how far along in their journey are there. You've learned a lot through yours, so you're not trying to
Wow.
gatekeep any information. And I think that's what people will remember. People will remember, like you said, that how talented you are and whatnot, and the great songs that you've made. But when it's
Mhm.
all said and done, it's about the personal relationships and the connection
Yeah.
that you have with another human
And I
being.
try to have it with everyone I work with. Like everyone that I work with so far, I can invite to my house and have a meal with, you know? Um, I don't really care to work with anyone that I can't do that with. I'm straight because then it sounds like a force and
Right.
it's homework, you know. But that's a luxury, you know. But I had to work for that. I had to put a lot of work in, put a lot, pay a lot forward to the game, to the grind to get to that point. Because I know 10 years ago, or even I couldn't do that. I would have to probably do sessions I didn't want to do because you're not in that position yet, you know. But it's all part of your story.
Right.
So
And you're at the place now where you've probably dreamed about being years ago, 10, 15 years ago.
hell
And
yeah.
I hope you have some chances to, wind down and relax and
Oh
look
yeah, I
at it.
plenty of relaxing time lately, but for sure, no, it's definitely very um it's very surreal sometimes, bro. Because it's like making music for a living is like making it to the NBA. It's like 1%. It's like it's hard, bro. Um, it's a lot of shit that goes into it. They're not talent, unfortunately. Um, but as long as we stand on our principles and morals and don't compromise that, then you're doing it the right way. But that often means that you're gonna have to take those stairs. And it's gonna take longer, but you will thank yourself. Your future self will thank you for that. 100%.
I love that. Thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning that. That's
Yeah.
very transparent and real,
Mm.
and something that I hope a lot of people who's watching this can take home and learn from that too as well. Transitioning this part of the interview, I want to talk about
Yeah.
some of your biggest placements,
Mm.
and so we can just kind of learn how they all came to life.
Mm.
And it's more of like a selfish portion of this interview for me.
No, go ahead. No, for sure.
I'm such a fan, man. So you've produced a few hits for Brent Faiyaz. How
Mm.
did you first connect with Brent? And can you tell me what the hell you put in Clouded? Because the
that
production
was
on that song
that
like
was just
transcends me. When I first listened, I
uh,
was like, I was
man, it's one of the
floating up into the
moments.
heavens there. So talk about that song. And it's one of those songs
uh
that you wish were longer. That's how great it
yeah.
is.
That was gonna be for my first album. That was supposed to be on Minus the Bullshit, that song. But then when I played it, they were like, nah, I need to use this for my shit. I said, all right, cool, it makes sense, more visibility. But that was something that I was working on. I was making a beat for J. Cole and it had drums and everything on it. And then one day I just came to the studio and they're like, yo, like let me hear it without drums. I'm like, all right, cool. So I took the drums off and changed the key and it worked. And again, with in that situation, it was something I didn't expect, but it worked. But that was, from a sample pack that one of my friends, Sam Wish, who's one of the most talented producers and composers that I know, he sent me that, and I got to give him the credit for because without him, it doesn't, without all of us, it doesn't come out that way, right? But it's not just all me. It's definitely the people I work with, and that was something that came together and very quickly, and then it sat in the vault for a little bit, and then once they heard it again, they finished it, and then it became what it was, and then it became what it is now.
So you also have production credits on SZA's Good Days.
Mhm.
Maybe run me through what that was like, maybe working with other people on that
Mhm.
production, how it all came to life, how long did it sit for? Talk
Yeah,
about that.
that was all the homies too. Los Carter made the beat. Los made that beat in a session with two other artists, and I was in Chicago at home visiting, and I remember he texted me. a voice memo of the guitar loop, and he's like, "Yo, what do you think of this?" I'm like, "This is beautiful." You know why? He's like, "Oh, I'm in the session and like no one's biting, no one's like." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Whatever." I'm like, they probably want something else, you know. So then I took the loop and I just made it. I made a beat out of it, and I sent it back to him. And he's like, I'm gonna finish this when I get home. I got you. So then he finished it up, and for the longest time, when I had the beat, I just heard SZA on it. But sometimes you'll hear people on stuff. You'll be, oh, like this person would sound so good on this, and they don't pick it because it sounds too much like them, or it sounds like too much of something they already did. But I was never really heard or anything on like that. Like I never heard, her hop on something like that. So I gave it to Carter, who works with her a lot and closely, and then that was that. Um, Full circle, I find Orion Sun, and we chop it up right on Instagram, or I think right with Instagram. And she's like, "Hey, send me some music, like send me some beats. Like I'm down. Let's work." So the first beat I send her was Good Days. So she sent me back a song like 2 days later, and it's a beautiful song. And I'm like, "Yo, this is fire. Let's do it. Like let's put it out." So, all right, cool. So we're just sitting on it, bro. I think like 3 days later, I get a call from Carter, and he's like, "Yo, remember that song that one beat? Yeah, like, don't give it to anybody." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "SZA, she recorded to it." I'm like, "She did?" And it's like, I mean, it was a good thing, but it was like I felt bad because I had to give it to Orion, you know. And this is a gamble because just because someone recorded something to doesn't mean they're gonna use it. Like they record music all the time. And I bet my money, I put my money on that SZA was gonna use it, and that was a good bet. It worked out.
So
But
somewhere
Orion was
deep on a
super
hard
cool with
drive.
it. So Orion was super cool with it. She was like, "Yo," I told her, "Hey, like," and they're like, "Yo, like, no worries, you know." But that at least showed her that I wasn't holding out. Like, I would give her that. I would give her the best shit
Right, right.
possible. Um, but yeah, that's how that happened. And I knew about that song for like I think 2018 when I was working with Kanye on Hurricane. That's when I knew about it. And then I just sat on that I had a little voice memo for like 2 years, and then it finally dropped in Christmas of 2020. I think it
Yeah.
was. So yeah.
Now that allows a pretty smooth transition into my
Mm,
next song I want to talk about.
mm.
A song that had a pretty crazy life even before it dropped,
Yes.
and that's Kanye's Hurricane. I mean, I remember hearing the like leaked demo of that song back in 2019, then hearing like five different versions of that song. And as we know, Kanye loves to do that. What part did you have in the production of that song? And maybe just describe from your lens the life that it had up to
Yeah.
it dropping.
So the original, my part was the original version. It was called 80 Degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a DJ Khalil sample. It was DJ Khalil. Also Sam Barsh. I brought him up earlier in the interview, working with Saba. So I had this, I was in Chicago and I was working with Chance because he was gonna do another project. And then there was like, oh, I'm actually doing a project with Kanye. It's gonna be called a good ass job. So we're just working on stuff, in the studio. And then Kanye pulls up and takes over the second floor. And I remember somebody told me, hey, Bugs is upstairs, guy Bugs, right? Bugs is a producer from Chicago, super like legendary producer. Grew up with Kanye, like that's his, right hand. And I was like, oh, I know Bugs. So I text him, hey man, like, I'm downstairs. He's like, oh shit, you're here. He's like, come upstairs. I go upstairs and he's, telling me he's just giving me a rundown like of what's going on. I said, okay. He's like, well, see, he said, give me some ideas, like give me some stuff I can work with so I can play for Ye. I said, cool. So one of the ideas was Hurricane. And I remember throughout that process, like those 2 weeks I was there, I would hear Kanye rap on like my beats. But I had to respect the process of how they do things. So it was just so cool to walk around and like I hear this shit. You know what I mean? But Hurricane started and they stripped it down once they got the weekend and Lil Baby on it. But it's still a derivative of the original. So that's why we all got, credited as producers because I mean, without the original, there is no, the new version. So
Right. And I'm happy to hear that you were credited on that because
yeah,
me personally, I mean, I think the original, I listened to that song so much, the original just hit more for me, and it was stripped down
yeah,
when once they added the weekend and debate and Lil Baby to
mhm,
maybe create more room, more space on the record.
yeah,
And when you're in the studio and you hear Kanye rap over your beats, are you just like a fly on the wall, just observing? And that's
Surreal,
got to
man.
be so surreal, especially being from Chicago.
Dude, I don't even know how to explain it. This shit crazy. It was nuts. Like I put a video up, I think on my rollout videos. It's me, Chance, Francis, and the Lights, and Kanye. We're in the studio, and they're freestyling over one of my beats, and that shit was wild, you know. But I, I'm not surprised by anything anymore because it's supposed to happen. So it's like, you know what I mean?
You also produced one of my favorite songs from the past year, one of the biggest songs from the past year, and that's Jordan Ward's Fam Jam 4000, right?
Yes.
Um, how'd that placement come to life? I know you said that you discovered him through watching Insecure and everything,
Mhm.
but there's something about the instrumentation on that song that captures this nostalgic feeling. You were talking about nostalgia before. Um, I kind of want to just tap into your mindset if you could
Yeah.
remember where you were, mentally when you were making that beat
Yeah,
and
I
that
was in
melody.
we were in this Airbnb in Topanga Canyon. So it was like I remember it was like a lot of mountains and forest shit vibe going on, but it was me, Mike Hector, Lito, and who else? My boy Eli, he was there. And he wanted something that was like up, you know? So I pulled the drums out. I was like, all right, cool, let's do this. And literally Lito just started playing the chords, and then just started, and then boom. All right, now I had, now it started had legs. And now, Jordan is, humming, and now that's how you know that something's sticking, is when like the artist starting to get excited, move around, start mouthing, start doing shit. It's like, all right, cool. Let's keep the momentum going. But I like doing stuff like that. I feel that kind of that feeling. It's a little different, from what I usually do, but it works and it still like, has my touch on it.
Now
But
is
that
that
was
it's got to
very like straightforward. I mean, like just me and Lito in the studio, boom, yo, it's dope. Let's get it. And that was it.
and Lito's someone that he's worked with before too as well, right?
Yeah, I worked with Lito. Yeah, I put Lito and Jordan together when I went to go play Minus the Bullshit for I had a session with Jack Dine, and this is before my first album dropped. And Lito pulled up, and I'm like, "Yo," I'll play out some shit real quick." And I played him straightforward, and he was like, "Man, this kid is like, who is this kid?" I'm like, "Oh, it's Jordan Ward." Like, he's bro, like, link us up. Like, let's do it. So I linked them both up, and that was a really dope relationship that came out of that.
You have plenty of big placements, but I have to particularly ask about this one. You produced Still Fucked Up by G Herbo, which was an anthem in my high school football
Deep in
locker
the
room.
vault, yes, sir. Yeah,
Those were the early days of G Herbo, maybe coming right after he went by Lil Herb.
he was a little
Um,
hurt at that time.
he was okay.
Yeah, I found him on YouTube, bro.
You found G Herbo on YouTube.
Yeah, it was called a song called Gangway. And I just remember I was working with LEP at the time, and we were watching YouTube, and it came on. And I don't know, I found him on Twitter and DM'd him, and then that was it. He came by the studio.
That's nuts. And
Yeah,
so
but still fucked up though.
when you were
Yeah.
working with him and when you made
Mhm.
that beat, does anything like go through your mind as far as like thinking like, oh, this like did you think it was gonna be as big as it was? Did you think he was gonna be as big as it was? Like what was his
I
creative
knew
process like?
yeah. Well, he wrote the first verse right there. We were at Classic Studios, but this is like 2011, 12. This was like 12, 2012, I think. Um, He wrote the verse I remember we were in the Red Room at Classic Studios, and he finished the song later, but he was someone that I could see what it was gonna be. Like I could see past what it is. I could see, oh, you're gonna do this and this, and yeah, I for sure thought he was gonna be big, and he definitely is. I mean, he surpassed, I think, a lot of artists that came out that time too.
One of the things that I saw and I kind of looked up when I first started listening to you about a year and a half ago is I Googled the meaning of Nascent. And the definition is just coming into existence and beginning to display signs of future potential.
Hmm.
When you first started making music, what were some goals that you had set for yourself that helped you reach your full potential?
Um, I want to be the best, man. Like I'm very competitive. I don't know if it comes from like playing sports all my life, playing basketball, whatever. Oh, well, I mean, it's just some shit. It's just me. I don't know, but like, I always feared being called whack. You know, I was like being like, oh, that's just trash. Like, never. Like, you can say you don't like me, you can say a lot of shit, but you ain't gonna say the music not good. And that's the most important thing to me, is to respect that. Because we put a lot of time and work into this, man. And that was my biggest goal. I don't think my goal was just to get better and to make the best and just leave it all out on the floor. So when I do my first these albums, I'm giving you everything that I have at that time.
Now, who are some artists that you would like to work with? They could be at any level of their career. Maybe if there are some up and coming artists that you'd want to speak into existence of working with, who are some that come to mind right off the bat?
I want to work with Skilla Baby, but put him on
Okay.
some soulful shit. Um, I would just shoot Flo Milli. That'd be hard.
That'd be a crazy
Lotto,
flow.
but these are all my world, right? Lotto. Let's do Lotto, Flo Milli, Skilla Baby for like what's going on now. But my other list, Kendrick, Andre 3000, Frank Ocean, and Tyler, the creator. That'd be like, yeah,
Who knows?
that'd
Maybe it'll be Tyler and Frank on this.
be,
Maybe it'll
yeah,
bring them back together on the
yeah,
same song.
like that'd be crazy, bro.
That'd be magic right there.
Yeah,
Now, if your life was a movie and it had an end credit scene, what would be the last song as the movie fades to black?
fuck. Um, damn, the last song.
Yeah, and outro scene, music fades in and fades out, credits come on the screen. What's the song?
I mean, I'm gonna be predictable, bro. I'm gonna go Kanye West Celebration.
Have you ever produced a song that you didn't get credited for and maybe it got a bit big?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if it got big, but on Dr. Dre, I never said anything about this, but whatever. It's a song called. It's funny because full circle now I worked with Dr. Dre and BJ Chicago Kid. I think it's a song called "It All Falls on Me," or it's off the Compton album that he dropped.
You produced on that song.
Yeah, I get that. That was one of my that loop that sample that idea that was something I gave. Yeah, that didn't get credit. And it wasn't because of Dr. Dre or anybody else, but but those are the things that happen, and they can't happen. And what you do afterwards is that you really you just identify what happened and don't let it happen again.
Mm,
That's it. But it's just part of the game.
right, right. It's
But
part of
now
maybe.
full circle, on our second interview, we could talk about the Dr. Dre story and how that came to be and BJ. And it's like life always it's like you can't gatekeep and block people's blessings. Like you can't do that. Because I got to them. I got to them. And,
Yeah.
and the way I did it was way better than a song on his album. So it's all good. It all works out. You gotta keep your head forward and keep your mind. Stand on business and just keep grinding.
As we wrap this up, what are some personal goals and goals for your music as well that you'd like to accomplish within the next year? What do you want to manifest right now?
Well, I'm gonna get a Grammy for "Don't Grow Up Too Soon" for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, we're gonna make another album, and I'm gonna go on a crazy run. And the goals have been the same: to be the best and do the best. That's it, and not worry about nothing else. That's it.
And to keep making music that makes people feel, man. Because
Exactly, and also keep helping people out. It's very important for me to provide the information on how to do business the right way and how to just ask, from what you like just to ask for more information as I have and not be afraid to do that. 'Cause sometimes people they don't want to, they feel like that, you could rub people the wrong way. You can blackball yourself in this music because this music industry is janky, but fuck all that shit. Ask all the questions that you need to because this is your livelihood at the end of the day. So we want to make sure that we're doing the right things.
And if you're at home watching this interview, Nascent just dropped plenty of knowledge over the past hour or so, which I'm very appreciative for, man.
Yes,
Thank
of
you so much
course.
for your time.
Yeah.
It's been really fascinating talking with you. And yeah, thank you so much.
Nah, man. Please, thank you for doing this, and I can't wait for the drop, and we go crazy with it.
Of course, we got plenty of clips coming too. So if
So,
you're at home,
yeah.
become a fan of Nascent if you're not already. He's dropped a great album. Don't grow up too soon on streaming everywhere. This has been our entertaining conversation with the one and only Nascent. You're watching Loud Music Only. I'm your host, A.T Bianco. Thanks for watching.